So, good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to everyone joining us live on Zoom and YouTube from different corners of the world. Culture is not merely a backdrop to our lives, it is a vital, pulsing fabric through which we understand identity, resistance, and survival. It is the language we use to negotiate our place on this earth. Welcome to Public Lecture 60, hosted by Cultural Studies Research Forum in relation with Valat Education Private Limited. For 60 incredible sessions, this forum has stood as a dynamic sanctuary for intellectual disruption, a space where we look past the surface of the text to dissect the power structure, silent struggle, and enduring triumphs of human civilization. Tonight, we gather under the banner of Learning for Life to step into a landscape of profound resilience. We are delving deep into the heart of post-colonial Indian literature to explore eco-feminist narratives of survival in Kamala Markandaya's Nectar in a Sea. Kamala Markandaya's seminal novel is not just a story of rural hardship. It is a fierce testament to the intersecting vulnerabilities of the land and the female body. Tonight, we look at how the exploitation of nature mirrors the subjugation of women, but more importantly, how both earth and the spirit of womanhood possess a fierce, unyielding capacity to endure, reclaim, and survive. To guide us through this intricate matrix of gender, ecology, and endurance, we are absolutely privileged to have a young, vibrant voice with us tonight. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished resource person, Ms. Asifa Tamjid. Ms. Tamjid is a UGC NET qualified, currently served as a lecturer in English at the Xavier Institute of Polytechnic and Technology. She is a scholar of high caliber and she holds an MA in English from St. Xavier's College and is currently advancing the frontiers of her discipline by pursuing her PhD degree. What makes her presence tonight exceptionally poetic and fitting is her deep-rooted commitment to sustainable learning. She has successfully completed an intensive 4-month MOOC course titled Green Earth, Sustainable Future, bringing a lived ecological consciousness directly to our discussion of ecofeminism today. As a relentless seeker of knowledge, Ms. Tamjid is an active fixture in the global academic community, contributing to numerous national and international seminars, workshops, webinars, and faculty development programs. Her scholarly contributions include 4 published articles, and in a beautiful intersection of uh, intellect and art, she has published a book featuring her very own original calligraphies. With such a rich tapestry of academic background, environmental passion, and artistic grace, we are in for an extraordinary evening of intellectual illumination. To our vibrant audience, we invite you to actively engage and drop your question in the chat and be a part of this unfolding dialogue, of course, after the completion of the talk. Without further delay, let us open the floor. Ms. Ashifa, now floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Koyal ma'am, for the introduction. So, before beginning the talk, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Kalyani Vallat ma'am. I would like to also thank Sudeep sir, Anand sir, for providing me with an opportunity to present my talk in Cultural Studies Research Forum. So, before beginning the talk, I would like to present my PPT as well. Okay, let me share the screen. I hope the screen is visible, ma'am.
Yes, Asifa, it is.
Okay. Okay, so the title of the talk is Ecofeminist Narratives of Survival in Kamala Markandaya's Nectar Sieve, and it is a classic text of Kamala Markandaya. I hope we all must be aware of the novel. Moving on to the core framework of the study, let us first look at the aim, the rationale, and what is the main important question which is raised by me regarding this novel. If we'll try to see the primary aim of the study, so the aim of the study is to offer a post-colonial eco-feminist reading of Nectar in a Sieve. Earlier, it was studied mainly as a poverty narrative, focusing only on the rural destitution. So I'm trying to bring some light on the topic, the on the novel Nectar in a Sieve, with regard to eco-feminist reading. And secondly, we'll examine our protagonist Rukmani as an eco-feminist subject, and we'll see that she does not merely appear as a sufferer or a passive victim, but she appears as a subject who embodies resilience and environmental agency. This brings us to the rationale of our novel, again, which I pointed out that this novel was earlier only read as a poverty narrative, focusing upon the rural destitution, the rural problems. But here I would like to bring some light on the novel on the basis of our eco-feminist analysis. I've tried to go through many research papers. I would like to name few of them, such as that of Anirben Sen, in her paper, analysis about how women's body and productive labor is being linked to land's fertility has been brought out. She shows that how women and ecology are interconnected. Similarly, other papers such as that of Babita Kar and Divya Mehta talks about colonialism, patriarchy, and the power dynamics and how it plays an important role or significant role in intensifying the hardships faced by the marginalized women as well as ecology. Similarly, other paper as well, Shobha Tiwari and as of Sarwar Ahmed Wani, they talk in the paper Woman as a Savior and the Nurturer of Nature that the power and the dominance appear as the main theme throughout the novel that have a direct impact upon the world of women and as that of nature. So, our main research question is how does the novel construct Rukmani's survival as gendered and ecological struggle? And what does it reveals about the patriarchy, poverty, and environmental crisis in rural India? So the next slide takes us to our theoretical framework. Can anyone tell me what does the term ecofeminism defines? Or what is ecofeminist critical analysis? Any of the participants? Okay, never mind. So, ecofeminism is basically a literary and philosophical approach that studies about the interconnectedness which the nature and the woman have between them. It tells us about the fact that the women are oppressed in the similar manner as the nature are being exploited. So basically, ecofeminism is we can define it in the manner that it tells us about that how patriarchy dominate women and nature as well under the capitalism or colonialism we can say. If we'll go through the origin of the term, so the term was coined by Françoise Derbon. She was a French thinker actually, and in 1974 she coins the term ecofeminism, in which she tells that how reproduction or population have emerged as a root cause for the environmental crisis. She also claims that feminism or saving female and saving planet are the same fight. Similarly, Caroline Merchant as well, in a book Death of Nature, argues that the scientific revolution has replaced the nurturing organic view of Earth and has mechanized everything. And this mechanism has been also justified, that environmental exploitation has been also justified. So these are the some of the theoretical framework which I've employed in my talk today. So, if you'll see that ecofeminism or the post-colonial ecofeminism, it mainly focuses on that how land has been exploited. Or we'll see that how women are closer to the nature because they both act as provider to us, as nurturer, as the caregiver. If we'll try to examine what is post-colonial ecofeminism, can anyone can point out post-colonial, the post-colonial term? What do you understand by post-colonial term? Okay. Okay, so post-colonial ecofeminism, the term tells us or examines the environmental issues within the historical and the social realities of the countries in the global south. And so we are taking one of the novel from India, that is Kamala Markandaya's Nectar in a Sieve, to analyze post-colonial ecofeminism. Here we can study Vandana Shiva's ecofeminist views, and how she redefines that environmentalism has been directly linked with feminism. How? That the patriarchal capitalism tries to destroy nature as well as marginalize women. So, what are the key concepts to be used regarding nature as well as women? You'll see that gendered labor and ecology, ethics of care, and tactics and power. So, what is gendered labor and ecology? So, women have performed both productive and reproductive labor. If we look through the novel, we'll also find that Rukmani works in the field. She looks after the children. She acts as a caregiver for the land as well as children both. She maintains the household. She directly looks after the land and consider it as her own family. So this is the gendered labor that she has to look after, or the double labor, which we are going to see in the next slides as well, that she has to play both the role as of to look after the field in order to feed the family as well as to act as a caregiver for the family. So this again brings us to the ethics of care, that she is responsible, or she is responsible for the survival, that survival of being nurturer, of being sharer, of being the protector of family as well as community. If we'll see the tactics and power, here I have tried to draw some idea from Michel de Certeau, who points out that people who are marginalized or who are at lower position, they do not directly confront the people at the power, but they try to confront or to take actions against those people at position through the small everyday practices or small little efforts, as we'll see further in the slides. It is important to understand the rural ecology. The rural ecology. Why do you think that we need to analyze rural ecology? If anyone can point out, participants? Okay. Okay, so rural ecology is important here to analyze because whole of the novel is having a village setting. So it is important for us to understand that rural ecology, that rural society, that agrarian society, that how it is being exploited or harmed. So if we'll see that what is rural ecology or why rural ecology is important, it is important because that village setting gives us whole of the social background, the background of the novel as well as the background of the character. It's going to shape a character. If we'll see the village setting provides us with the fact that Nathan being a poor tenant farmer and who lives in a hut, who does not owns the land. He is completely dependent on the land for the survival of the family as well. So this is the village setting, the agrarian community, which we are going to focus upon. And since he is a farmer, he is largely dependent upon his own lands. Uh, Actually, not own land. the land which he cultivates, we are talking about. So the ecological vulnerability, we are going to see the ecological vulnerability, how ecology or nature acts as both destroyer and life giver. Although we see that Nathan and Rukmani, being the tenant farmer, are largely dependent upon the land, but that land is again get vulnerable because of that ecological or ecological harm, or we can say the natural disaster, which is not in our hand. So this brings out the light to the fact that nature acts as both life giver as well as destroyer. Because their life is completely tied to monsoon. If there would be no monsoon, there would be no good harvest. It will be followed by drought, and again, the question of survival will be raised. If we'll further move on to the socio-economic structure, we'll see that the land to which Rukmani tends, sows the seed, looks after the crops, or the Nathan, for the matter of the fact, that land also does not belongs to them. They are just the tenant relation. They just have that tenant relation. It is owned by someone else. So that fear of losing the land is also always there in their mind. The land which they cultivate, again, that is not sufficient to completely eradicate, or sometimes to bring a stoppage to their poverty or to clear out their debt. So again, that farming is also subsistence farming, so their socio-economic structure always remains in danger. So again, that occurs mostly in that rural ecology. So that's why we need to understand rural ecology. If we'll try to put on some eco-feminist interpretation, then again we'll find that land or the field in which Rukmani and Nathan cultivate, they're completely mutually dependent on that. But again, that land also is not loyal to them, we can say, because it is vulnerable to ecology. Again, it is vulnerable, or it is completely dependent upon the seasonal cycle. And if the seasonal cycle won't support, the land won't support them. So, this was the thing. Next is the tannery and the changing village. The arrival of the very tannery. So here tannery basically acts as a symbol of industrialization, symbol of modernization, which is again further going to disrupt or complicate the life of Rukmani and Nathan. So this very symbol of industrialization, it represents the conflict between the traditional rural life and the modern industrial development. The life which was earlier dependent upon land will now shift its survival tendency upon the tannery. This tannery will obviously provide or create multiple employment opportunities, because it has led to the advent of building of good roads, bridges, again. But this modernization will also harm nature, will also harm the life of tenant farmers like Nathan and Rukmani, because we'll see further that how Nathan loses his land, because he does not own that land. And with the advent of tannery, there was demand of more area or more land, and so the landowner snatches that land from Nathan and provides it to the tannery owners. So again, this advent of tannery is bringing or dispossession of land for that agrarian community. Further, it is also providing disruption and pollution. How the continuous noise of that machines, that moral anxiety, and obviously because of the process of industrialization, there is rise in prices. The constant noise, the air is also filled with unpleasant smells. That crowded strangers, that peaceful atmosphere of that village scene has been disrupted again because of the advent of tannery. So it also has that it also harms that economic dependence of farmers upon the land, because again, with the advent of tannery, more of the farmers are shifting towards towards working in the industry. So that like who will tend the land, who will look after the land or the nature is being ignored for the profit. Because again, tannery provides better employment facility, it provides better wages, it provides better lifestyle, we can say. So tannery can also symbolize the industrial capitalism that is going to value profit over people and nature. If I try to employ eco-feminist interpretation over there, then it also raises the question of the fact that can this progress uh, could be truly called progress, which overlooks the necessity of the poor people and tries to feed more profit upon the people who are at the power position again. Okay, if we'll look at Rukmani, we'll see that her marriage and attachment to the land. Earlier, when in the beginning of the novel, we'll read that when Rukmani shifts to the house of or the hut of Nathan, she finds that there's that thatched roof, the walls, the mud walls. So she comes from a better place comparison to that of Nathan's hut. But yet she gradually starts loving the hut. She gradually starts loving the soil. She loves that natural environment. She used to tend the land with that happiness, with that familial feeling. If we look over the infertility and the motherhood, uh, how motherhood is very much required in the society as per regarding the woman. If a woman is unable to conceive, or if a woman is unable to become a mother, this is quite unacceptable by the society. They cannot take this thing up because motherhood, they think, is an important criteria for women to exemplify herself of being a woman or to prove herself of being a woman. So we'll look at Rukmani of anxiety over childlessness. And we can draw parallel of this with the ecology as well, that if a land isn't fertile, it is again not acceptable by the society. If the land turns barren, we consider it as a waste. In a similar manner, if a woman is not able to reproduce, she is also not taken into consideration. We can justify this with a very example of Iravadi, the daughter of Rukmani, who was returned by her husband or abandoned by her husband just for the matter of the fact she was not able to conceive. Here we'll find that during the early years of marriage, Rukmani was also facing the same problem, but then she visits Kenny, and Kenny helps her, and soon was able to conceive and followed with Ira and then a number of sons. Here, okay, we'll see how Kenny connection is also an important aspect in the novel in the further slide. Again, this human fertility and crop fertility is described in the similar emotional tone. That if a mother or if a woman is unable to conceive, and if a land is unable to bear the crops, they both are unaccepted in the society, unacceptable in the society. So yeah, and here we can also say that as there's a good harvest, it brings blessing and happiness to the family. In the similar manner, if a woman is able to produce son, she is acceptable and she is considered as a blessing as well. If a woman, if a land, if a field becomes barren, there's food scarcity and the suffering increases. In the similar manner, if a woman is not able to produce a good number of sons, it is not celebrated as a by the society. It is not acceptable by the society. So that fertility of women and fertility of nature is both important again for the survival and for the sustenance. So the labor, care, and ethics of survival. Rukmani's survival again largely depends upon that reproductive labor as well as that productive capacity of the land. or we can say that her own reproductivity as well as the productivity of the land. They both share a constant sustaining role with each other. Rukmani's body and the earth both are seen here as a source of nourishment, as a source of survival and provider. And yet, both are affected by poverty, patriarchy, and environmental instability. I have given a hint of double labor. Can anyone bring out that point from the participants? The double labor, what I'm talking about? Yes, working for family and working for land. Yes. Rukmani working for family as well as Rukmani working for land. She is responsible for both the field work as well as the domestic work. She acts as a nurturer, she acts as a caregiver, and she is responsible here for preserving the family, or the very title, the survival of the family. Then we'll look for the care work. Again, the same thing. Here, I would like to bring an example that there was an instance when there was shortage of food because of the drought struck, and that's why there was shortage of food. Then she and Ira used to sacrifice the amount of their food in order to fill the stomach of their son, the brother, Ira's brother. So this instance brings again a light to the matter of the fact that it's women who are expected to sacrifice. It's women who are who take up the responsibility. If not patriarchal society, then it is so much internalized in their mindset that they have to sacrifice or they are responsible for looking after. It was nothing like that. Nathan didn't support her. But I would like to bring light here the ecofeminist, that the feminism thing, that how women themselves come into the forefront in order to sacrifice or in order to look as to emerge as a nurturer, to emerge as a caregiver. So again, the ethics of care, that she takes up the responsibility for the care work. When there was a food shortage, they used to carefully ration the little amount of food available for them. And the we can also see the care thing, that when Iravati was abandoned by her husband, it was Rukmani who took the step to look after for Ira. Again, the man or the patriarchal society sidelining the woman, and a woman coming up or emerging as an helper, as a caregiver, as a mother to look after. So again, if we'll draw parallel with the land, then the land and the community, everything, that value of empathy, that value of cooperation, nurturer in the field of domination is taken up by woman herself. Her relationship with land also reflects the care in the matter of the fact that she does not exploits the land for her profit. Rather, she works in it respectfully. She tends the field in the manner that she consider it as her own family, as her own children. So here she tries to maintain that balance, that ecological balance between human and the land. Next slide. Okay. That agency. Again, okay, passivity. I would like to ask that, does Rukmani appear as a passive character? Does Rukmani appear as a passive character? What are your views? Yes. Here we'll find that Rukmani does not appear as a passive character. She does not submit to the situation. She constantly makes that smart decisions. Her decisions, her small tactics, her small steps are responsible for the survival of the family. even during the changing circumstances, she does not surrender to the situation. She emerges as a character who shows that resilience, who shows that compassion towards the end of the novel, we can see. And her silence should not be mistaken as of for her weakness. And the everyday tactics which we are talking about. Again, I would like to talk about that theorist Michel de Certeau, who talks that powerless people often resist the authority to the little small efforts, the everyday tactics, rather than the direct confrontation. They do not fight against uh, the power dynamics, but rather they try to adjust according to the changing situation without giving up hope. The Kenny connection which I was talking, the Kenny connection which I was talking, that when in the after the few years of marriage she was not able to conceive, then she visits Kenny, and this the visit, how her paying visit to Kenny was again not acceptable by the society. So she does not completely goes against the society, but she does not again surrenders to the society's demand, because for her motherhood was also important. So what she does, she used to visit Kenny in the dark of the night in order to get that medicine, or in order to get that help. So here we'll find that she completely does not surrenders to the society's demand, but she also pays respect to the demands of the society. She because the conservative village would n- have never accepted the fact that she is visiting a doctor. So this was a courageous decision again taken by her. This could also be seen as a small everyday tactic which I am talking about, that her actions would have been socially discouraged, but yet she takes that small step. She takes the assistance of Dr. Kelly, because she knows that even if she'll not become a motherhood, then also she will be criticized by the society. So she again takes that small everyday tactic or small step which I'm talking about. And later on, she also sends her son Selvam to assist Kenny, because she was very well aware that education and healthcare is very important for the future generation. So her presence of mind, her adaptance with the changing situation could be also seen as an important step in of hers throughout the novel. Okay, kinship with nature. How do you consider nature? I would like to ask you all, how do you consider nature? How you would take up nature? If anyone can tell me in the participants, you can tell me in the chat box. How? Yes, as a friend. Okay, as a friend. And any more? Any more comments regarding how we take up nature? Okay. So we generally romanticize nature. If we look at rain, as of matter, if we look at rain, or if we look at trees, we get that joy, we get that happiness. We romanticize nature. We see that serene beauty and we feel pleasant. But this nature is not same for everyone. So again, other than romanticizing nature, we'll find through that ecofeminist reading, we'll find nature being more realistic and more nuanced. We'll see throughout the novel that it acts as both life giver as well as destructive in nature. It is kind and nurturing, as well as it also creates problem in the life of Rukmani. Throughout the novel, we'll find that Rukmani describes the land as her own child, as her own family member, and she experiences joy when the rains arrive, because it is again a promise for the good harvest, a food and hope. And as soon as that nature changes its face, we can say, or nature brings that drought, so that is ecological vulnerability. Again, here nature could be seen beyond romanticization. that nature is unpredictable. Nature is not always nurturer. Nature can be destructive as well. And Rukmani, being vulnerable to such forces, again has to take up the initiative for the survival of a family, for that patriarchy, for that industrialization process again. Say both women and nature are seen as vulnerable to the larger systems of power. Uh, yeah. If again we can also apply that the kinship thing, that the kinship is based on work, dependence, risk, not mystical unity. So here I'm talking that Rukmani's relationship with nature is not mystical or is not based on some inherent feminine quality, but it is developed more as of her survival instinct in the land. Her bond with nature is created through labor, through her dependence, through the shared risk, again, the land and hers as well. And it is not always romantically brought out. And if we'll see through the post-colonial ecofeminism lens, we'll see that it emphasizes the material realities or the facts or the practical reality rather than just focusing upon the abstract ideals of the nature. And also when later on when the land, the kinship I'm talking about, when the land was taken away by the landlord from Rukmani and Nathan. So here that loss of land is just not the loss of a piece of land, but it was actually loss of an identity, loss of memory, loss of livelihood, and loss of that emotional belongingness. Again, if we can also apply Marxist lens here. Through Marxist lens, we can see that losing of the land, the loss of the land, has been considered as capitalist development, which focuses upon the profit rather than upon the lives of poor. If we'll appoint that eco-critic lens, then we'll find the destruction of the land and converting into again for the benefit of the process of industrialization, for adding on to the land area of the tannery, which is again going to bring environmental exploitation, the destruction, the pollution, which we have already discussed in the previous slide. So here we can find that nature has not been romanticized. We have not seen nature, or we have not focused upon the nature as being peaceful or nurturer, rather as a one which has been used by the patriarchal society as a resources for economic development. So what's wrong with the slide? Yes. The industrialization process. Again, the very symbol of tannery gives us the hint of process of industrialization, the industrialization which results in displacement, poverty, and ecological destruction. It brings light to the matter of the fact that this process has brought harm to the lives of poor farming families. And further, it will also lead to that climatic vulnerability, raising question to sustainable development and environmental justice. If you see the eviction from the land, again, the land was sold, the tenants were displaced, that industrial encroachment leading to agrarian dispossession, what we are talking about. Leaving the family homeless, the landlord selling it for the commercial purpose, the tirelessly working farmers have been deployed of their land, and they have just become homeless. And then most of them, such as that of Rukmani and Nathan also, they move to the city, and there also they do not find that peace or that hunger or that homelessness has not been completed even in the city. They have to take shelter from the in the temple. They have to starve without the food. They have to survive in the condition which was again not acceptable by them, or which they didn't deserve actually. So here we'll find that their movement to the city was also not at all beneficial. Again, that modernization process has not provided any help or any care to the needy ones or the poor ones. Rather, it deteriorates the Nathan's condition. Later, he dies of exhaustion and old age and poor living condition, and eventually we'll find Rukmani's returning to the city, to the village life from that city life, because again, that city life was not providing her uh, uh, peace or a sense of belongingness. And that agrarian community, she was missing that agrarian community. So, can we say that this development or this modernization process has brought equal profit to everyone? Can we say that development is equal for everyone? Yes. This process is this process of development is completely uneven. It is not at all equal for everyone. It is the development is such uneven that the if you look into from the Marxist lens, then the one who are at the place of power or position, they get more richer, and the one who are at the vulnerable position, their condition worsens or gets more vulnerable. For the capitalist it is beneficial, and not for the poor and the yes, and not for the poor ones. Yes, it is completely uneven development because the economic progress only benefits the people at the position, and the marginalized people are ignored as they are always being ignored. So from that Marxist perspective, as I was talking, that it exposes that exploitation of the working class, the farmers who produce the wealth, who does more of the hard work, who work as a laborer. They neither own that land, they neither get the benefit of that production, nor their condition gets better over time. Rather, it just deteriorates, or the condition gets worse, and we can say. So, from a very post colonial perspective, if we'll apply, then we'll find that industrialization represents a continuation of colonial models of development that prioritizes again profit rather than focusing upon the human welfare. The rural communities get again displaced or disrupted in the name of this economic progress. Yes, I think it appears to be for the yes, yes, yes. It is not beneficial for the marginalized. Rather, it harms their progress. It rather oppresses them. We can employ this the contemporary relevance also, because this issue, because it also raises the issue as of the relevant today issues which are relevant today also, because that indigenous development, or that indigenous in the name of that indigenous development, those communities are displaced in the name of mining, in the name of industrial project, in the name of that urban expansion, we can say. It ultimately leads to the destruction of climate or weather as well. They cause climatic changes, they cause environmental degradation, they remain responsible for the food security or for care of the family as well. Yes. So again, through Rukmani's journey from village to the city, and then back again from city to the village, we'll find that that displacement of Rukmani is not only physical, but is again emotional, and ecological, cultural. These pointers, small pointers, are also important, because that displacement was not at all physical displacement, but her emotions, her ecology, her environment, her surrounding was also changed, and how it brought disruption or problem for her. How she uses her survival instincts in different situations. This has been pointed out. Okay. What's wrong with the slides? Okay, again, that return to village, if we'll try to uh, apply ecofeminist narration or interpretation, what we're talking is that uh, the death, the death of, we'll focus upon the death of Nathan, which again signifies the collapse of that traditional agrarian world under the pressures of industrialization, which has ultimately led to poverty. So her return also cannot be considered as something passive or submissive. Rather, it can be seen as a process. Her return could be seen as a process that emerges as a symbol of resilience, continuity, and hope, even at the time of distress. She also returns with Puli, the orphaned boy. Again, here it brings us the fact that uh, woman acts as the caregiver, that she does not leave that the orphan boy Puli, but she brings him back. Although there was no chance or little chance of them being at a better condition, but yet she does not leaves that Puli's hand. This also signifies that how women look after, how women act as a caregiver. And her return can also be interpreted not as nostalgia. She was not nostalgic regarding that, or not, she was not longing for that past. She was well aware that there is little chance of survival in the field or in the land, in the village she is returning. But again, because she was well aware that industrial process has again brought disruption, but yet she believes that the meaningful life which she is expecting could be only gained in that agrarian community through that honest labor, through that care, through that love in the community, through that agrarian, the peaceful surrounding. Her return also demonstrates her survival instincts, that she is not simply thinking about possessing wealth or land. It is about preserving or returning to one's dignity, to one's connection with the place where she actually belongs. Okay. So here we also see that how she demonstrates resilience, her adaptive nature, her care. Okay, 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 ma'am. Okay, ma'am. We have just almost come to the end. Yeah, the concluding slide of us. The main takeaways. Okay, so we get the main takeaways that Rukmani being a strong character, and Rukmani, or the protagonist, could be seen as a figure of ecofeminist agency, how she employs that a little tactics for the survival. Um, she appears as a powerful post-colonial eco-feminist character to be analyzed in order to tell us that Nectar in a Sieve is not merely a poverty-based narration, but is actually giving us clue to focus more upon that ecofeminism topic. Another key takeaway can be is that novel also presents the environmental degradation, the industrialization, the interconnected issues of women and nature again, the suffering of the poor, the and the interpretive synthesis again. We are just we'll go through, then we'll find the eco-feminist agency more as of the matter of the fact, and how the novel raises the question of environmental justice, the development, and the gender, particularly in the global south. We can take. Uh, we can understand environmental justice, the how the development process have led to class exploitation, women acting as unpaid laborers, the relationship between human and environment, and uh, and the criticizing of environmental destruction caused by the patriarchal society, which takes up the control of women as well as nature. We can also connect Nectar in a Sea with other texts as well. For example, as that of Margaret Atwood's Suffering, which is also read as twin ecofeminist reading with Nectar in a Sieve. And we can also go for other texts as well of Anita Desai and Avtar Ghosh's The Hungry Tide. So these are the texts which can be also taken up as eco-feminist reading, and we can make a comparative study. So this was all about the talk. The questions are welcomed. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you everyone for being a patient listener.
Thank you so much, Ashifa.
Yes, ma'am.
It was really a spellbinding and deeply illuminating lecture.
Okay.
And you have beautifully unraveled the delicate threads of ecofeminism in Nectar in a Sieve. And that actually reminding us that the scars on the land and the struggles of womanhood are profoundly interconnected. Yet both possess an unbreakable spirit of resistance and survival. You have given our forum an immense amount of intellectual sustenance to digest tonight, you know. This is
Yes,
true.
ma'am.
To kick off our question answer session and open the floor to our global audience, I would love to ask you that
Yes, ma'am.
in our current era of rapid climate crisis, how can we use Markandaya's mid 20th century rural narrative to better understand and navigate the contemporary eco-feminist battles of the 21st century?
Uh, by analyzing the character of Rukmani herself, ma'am.
Sorry for the interruption. Will you
Yes,
please
ma'am.
stop the slideshow and also the sharing?
Okay, ma'am.
Because the screen is black, right? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I have this is right, ma'am. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, ma'am. So, through the character of Rukmani, her her resilience in every situation, uh, can help us to understand that how we need to not lose hope in the difficult situation also, and should work with the flow or work with the hope, and this will help us in the continuation of our work or the task which will take. And the very that climate question, and that how the climatic conditions of the 21st century are is being also harmed. So we need to take some key steps. We need to encourage that sustainability, that sustainable development, and we should take the very example of the advent of tannery from the novel. That advent of tannery again not only disrupted that agrarian community, but it also caused environmental pollution. In a similar manner, in the 21st century as well, if we try to that expand the road, let us take that very simple example, real life example. If we just try to that expand the road, we are just cutting down those trees, and we are just not replacing it with other ones as well. So if we are focusing upon industrialization or modernization, when and good, it is necessary. If we are expanding that road, or if we are cutting down trees for that reason, we can just simply do or take a small initiative of planting those trees in some other area in order to maintain that balance. So the tannery example, we can see that tannery brought just disruption. It just caused destruction for the agrarian community as well, for the ecology as well. So we should not do the same thing. That we should not take profit as of more serious rather than human welfare, or we should not break that interconnectedness between land and between women. I hope I'm able to communicate, ma'am. Okay.
Sure, Asifa. It was really good to know your views on that. And quite, I am also agreed with you. Yeah.
Mm,
Someone
okay.
is in the chat box asked that can ecofeminism avoid essentializing third world women? Can you please explain it?
Okay. Can ecofeminism avoid essentializing the third world woman? Yes, I think yes, because if we'll study ecofeminism, we'll understand that how important role does women play, especially the third world woman, as you're asking about the third world woman. That is, again, we are focusing upon the women in the rural community or in the rural area. Yes, if we'll study ecofeminism, we'll understand the effort or the steps taken by the rural women, how they act as the nurturer, the caregiver for the land, for the children. They are mostly responsible for the survival of the family, for acting as a protector. So yes, if we'll study ecofeminism, we'll understand the importance of third world women who just simply act as unpaid laborer, unsung laborer, we can say. So yes, ecofeminism helps us to analyze the importance of those third world women who are completely ignored. So yes, ecofeminism would help.
Thank you so
I hope
much.
I made the point. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. I hope who questioned it, he or she get, yeah, okay, got it. Because said thank you. Okay. Another question we have from YouTube, that would you characterize Rukmani's endurance as passive suffering, or is her survival a quiet form of ecofeminist resistance?
Yes, this is an important thing to understand that no, she is not at all passive character. She is not at all subdued or submissive character. Because of her small everyday action, as I was talking about, by drawing out the ideas of Michel de Certeau, that a very simple act of hers. I took an example also that when once the field was struck with drought, then they had very little amount of food, very little amount of that grains left. So she divided it into 24 days. Then again, she used to daily count it. She daily used to look after it. So she's not a passive character that she has just left the situation, but actually she emerges as a strong character that even in the days when her survival was hard, took those small steps. She took that small initiatives for the survival of the family. In a similar manner, it was not easy for her to move towards the city because she was a great lover of that agrarian community. But yet, she took that initiative to move towards the city, to look for her son Murugan in the city. Another instance was also there that she didn't like that advent of tannery, but yet again, her elder sons, two of the sons, that Arjun and Thambi, well, they wanted to work in the tannery. Then she didn't resist it. She didn't submit to it. She emerged as a strong character. No, you are not allowed. Or she was in the difficult situation. They were in the difficult situation because the field was not prosperous at that time. Yet she did not submit to the situation. So she was not a passive character. She emerges as a strong character, a very resilient character. Even towards the end of the novel, even that when she was struck with widowhood and poverty, yet she had a hope that when she'll return to the village, she'll be able to get that a prosperous agrarian community. So the hope which she holds till last shows us that she's not at all a passive character. She emerges as a strong, resilient character. I
True.
hope I was clear, ma'am.
Actually, yes. Yes, you are right.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Anyone else wants to ask anything? Or just not necessarily it will be a query. You can just talk to her. No problem. Okay. One more question we have, that,
Yes.
yeah, how does the metaphor of holding nectar in a sea, quote unquote, translate to an eco-feminist struggle to hold onto life and nature amidst corporate destruction? Yeah.
Okay. So this very title Nectar in a Sieve has been taken from St. Coleridge's Work Without Hope. So actually, the nectar in a sieve, the nectar is that sweetness or that good harvest which Rukmani talks about, and that sieve is the industrialization process. So nectar in a sieve metaphor is used here because Rukmani, being a strong character, being a resilient character, she tries to hold that sweetness, that love of hers for the land. Through a sieve that is industrialization process, that she is not losing hope, that she wants that to hold that sweetness, that agrarian community, but actually due to the industrialization process, it's becoming waste because you can't connect anything in a sieve is something through which the things leak. So she is trying to connect that nectar, that sweetness, that honey in a sieve, and ultimately it won't be possible because that sieve is responsible for the leakage. So yeah, we can also see that that sieve thing, that industrial process, how industrial process does not let poor family to survive. However hard they try, however hopeful they be, that sieve, that system, that leakage in the system is going to cause their destruction, is going to cause their disruption. So I think this.
Yeah, thank you, Ashifa.
Okay.
Any other questions? I think we are running out of time.
Mm,
So as we bring this intellectually stimulating evening to a close, my heart is filled with immense gratitude. Gratitude not just for the smooth conduct of this event, but for the profound ideas that have been planted in our minds tonight. So, on behalf of Cultural Studies Research Forum and also Bharat Education Private Limited, I extend my deepest thanks to Ashifa and everyone who made Public Lecture 60 an outstanding success. So, and next, our deepest gratitude goes to the phenomenal resource person, Ms. Ashifa Tamjit. Thank you, Ms. Tamjit, for leading us through the intricate landscapes of eco-feminist narratives of survival in Kamala Markandaya's Nectar essay. You did not merely analyze a text, actually. You bridged the gap between mid-century literature and modern ecological realities. So, your insights into corporate extraction or the gendered experience of climate displacement, or you can say the radical nature of rural survival, have given us a completely fresh lens through which we can look at both literature and our planet. So, deep thanks to you. And I express my heartfelt thanks to all the management community we have at our CSRF, also at Bhalat. And also a huge thank to Dr. Kalani Bhalat and Anand sir and Sudeep sir for supporting us through all the time. And finally, an academic forum is not only, I mean, is alive only for the past participants, right? So, to our wonderful audience joining us from various parts of the globe, thank you for your presence. So, as we scatter back into our walls tonight, let us carry with us Rukmini's spirit of resilience and a renewed community commitment to nurturing ourselves. So, and also our art. So, thank you all. And I am just closing this session. Yeah.
okay,
Thank
okay.
you,
Thank you,
Ashifa.
ma'am. Thank